Yo, what's up, guys? It's Dom, and you're tuning in to Talks with Dom, where we touch on the serious topics that dives into the creator within. Over time, the goal is to help each and every one of you partaking in this transformation to better understand who and where you are on your journey. So let's chop it up, guys. Right, we're on to point 11, learning to release. Right, so releasing isn't forgetting, it isn't pretending something never mattered, and it isn't forcing yourself to stop caring, right? Being able to release these attachments that we've um, notified, that we've began to understand, began to gain clarity of, right? Releasing that is basically being able to become one with a thing, right? Having that acceptance with the thing, right? And once you gain that acceptance, being able to understand, okay, this happened. This is what I want to do with it. This is why it's here. Okay, bet. Now this is where I'm moving, right? This is where I'm moving. That doesn't always mean that that thing has to move with us, right? Or we can find ways where that thing can actually work for us in a good way, rather than working in a way that we truly didn't understand, and allowing it to truly be harmful for us, right? So understanding that you're not standing against the emotional presence of it, right? Or not trying to feel, right? Not truly wanting to truly understand what that thing is, right? Or you're not pretending as if that thing just doesn't matter. That thing doesn't matter to us, as we're like trying to understand that, and we're not trying to act as if we're just going to forget that thing, right? Because then that's how we create other patterns down the line that we think aren't coming, that come in a whole different wave. So at some point, right, these attachments that we have to be dealt with, have to be accepted before we can truly move on to the better, right? Release is no releasing is learning to appreciate what something gave you without requiring it to remain a part of your future, right? So back on that note of acceptance, having that acceptance for it, understanding what it did, understanding what happened when you truly didn't know what it was, when you were on a journey of trying to understand what that role was for that attachment, right? And so now you see you see where you were with it, you see where you are with it, and now you have to see where you're going, right? And where the role for that attachment has to be, right? So you stop expecting old versions of yourself to carry you into new seasons, right? It doesn't happen all at once. It happens every time you choose possibility over fear, every time you choose movement over comfort, every time you choose your future over your attachment to your past, right? So every time we make that move towards the better of us, the step that's going to push us to push that lever further, right? That release comes stronger, right? That thought of acceptance becomes stronger, becomes more peaceful, becomes the clarity that we need within us, right? A creator who cannot release eventually begins creating from memory instead of imagination, right? So we can only, so if we're not releasing these things, these attachments, these things that are keeping us from truly being ourselves, is keeping us from truly creating as ourselves. That's what I wanted to say, right? But if we continue to keep that there, if we continue to not release, we become creatives that only can create from what we've where we already been, rather than where we are and where we're going, right? And so, in ways of how I said before in the last video, creating from where you came from is definitely something that you can do. it's definitely dope ways where that can be made into something like incredible, made into something dope, right? But then you have times where you feel like that your ideas are kind of repetitive, or like your ideas are it's kind of like you're outgrowing those ideas because it's where you were rather than where you are or where you're headed, right? So it says a creator who cannot release eventually begins creating from memory instead of imagination. We need to move to imagination, and the only way that we can move to imagination is by having acceptance and by going through with releasing, to be able to open space in our minds to truly let our imagination expand for what we want and where we're headed, right? When you learn to release, your imagination becomes available again. As I just said, for sure, you're no longer creating to preserve who you were. You're creating to discover who you're becoming. You're building the blocks for the ideas and the vision and the plan that's coming, right? You're creating for the encounters that you're going to come into in the future, right? Where you are creating those steps that the creative on the inside, right, truly wants to create within yourself. You have that acceptance there to create that ground for you, right? To create that ground of experimenting, right? It's almost like a map. You kind of see where you came, right? Now you're pointing yourself to where you're going, right? You know what you went through, you know, all the ups and downs and stuff like that, the pain, right? The happiness, you know what I mean? The cuts and bruises, you know what I mean? All the smiles and giggles and, you know what I mean? Just all of these times sculptured or sculpted together, right? Into this one big picture piece, right? And so now being able to look at these pieces from the past to the present to the future and being able to create in a way that you're being truest to yourself and being able to point that into viewers or into people that are truly intrigued or inspired by what you create. Maybe that could be something that changes their lives. Maybe that could be something that changes the way they look at life. You know what I mean? That's always dope, right? So it's just something to be thinking about when it comes to learning to release things, especially as a creator, especially as a creative, guys, like this. We're here to create, grow, grow, right? We go through our things on a day to day, right? And we are able to piece those things together, or even if we're not able to piece it together right away, as time goes, we're taking the steps to be able to understand these things, right? Or to be able to have some sort of idea of what that thing may be, right? To be able to gain that freedom to create and express, right? And to create that thing that's explaining this stuff that's going on, right? And so, just being able to better understand what it is to truly be able to release these things, right? Release these attachments um, that stuck to us. Release these old ways, right? But yeah, man, shoot, just until the next one, guys, for sure.